because uh, external financial reporting is one of the most important aspect, which is in fact done by many corporates or companies, corporations here. And these corporations, of course, every year they are going to do this activity. So every day, this is going to be an everyday activity, everyday activity. So that is importance, which is in fact that is the importance which is to be given so far as this is topic is concerned. So uh, before we commence the discussion on external financial reporting, I request you to kindly introduce yourself, Anju and Zafira Zakaria. Kindly tell me your background so that I can modify my discussion accordingly. What's your background? What do you do? Hello, Anju, Zafira. Kindly. Good evening.
Sir, I'm Safida Sakaria.
Yeah, tell
So
me.
I have completed my BCom Finance and Taxation.
Yeah, from
So
which college?
from MES College,
Okay,
Alua.
okay, fine.
Okay.
Then what do you do now?
So have attended a training program in JRS and company, a CA firm.
Hmm.
So it was basically mainly on GST section.
Okay,
So it was a 2 months training program.
fantastic. Okay, perfect.
Okay, sir.
Fine. Thank you,
Yes.
Safida. Anju.
Thanks.
Hello, Anju. Hello, Anju. Can you speak? I am not able to hear you. No issue. You can type it. That's enough. You can type. Fine. What do you do now? Fantastic. Okay, fine. Thank you. So, thanks. You can mute your mic. Worked for 8 years. Where? Where, Anju? Where did you work? Very good. Fantastic. So, you were in account section or elsewhere? Oh, accounts and audit. Anyway, thanks for your information. Anju, you can mute your mic. I'm going to commence discussion on external financial reporting. Now, okay. Yeah, tell me whether you are able to see this screen, what I am sharing right now. Fine, okay. Now, Mr. Arshul Jalal, nice that you have joined. Can you just tell me briefly about yourself? What is your background? What do you do right now?
Hello,
Yeah, Arshul, tell me.
my name is Arsil Jalal.
Good evening. Yeah, tell me.
I am from Ernakulam.
Okay.
I am studying at BBA second year,
Where, which college?
College of Arts and Commerce.
Okay, fine. So, do you have accounting as part of your syllabus?
I in the first semester and the second semester.
Okay, fantastic, my dear. Thank you. Thank you. You can mute your mic and listen to me. That's enough. Now, see, we have section A, B, C, D, E, F as part of part 1 of CMA program. We are going to commence with section A, external financial reporting decisions. See, I have sometimes back I have told you the weightage of this topic is 15% when compared to other topics. Though, from the exam perspective, the weightage is only 15. I can rather tell you from the practical aspects, the weightage is 100%, because this is one of the most prominent activity which is carried out by many corporations on a daily basis, because without which it is very difficult for anybody to communicate the result at the end of the year, because every organization believe in communicating whatever they have achieved. There are so many reasons why they are intending to communicate their results. Ultimately, market value, their core objective, is one of the dominant element which every organization would like to achieve at the end of the day. So now, when we speak about the term value, this value proposition is communicated very well through the figures. What the company has achieved at the end of the year when compared to the prior year, when compared to anybody else in the market, this will be giving them, no doubt, a scope for improvising their own value in the market. When the value is increasing, there would be so many investments opportunities which would spring up. So many investors would, in fact, prefer this organization. Organization would be able to mobilize a lot of funds, and accordingly, so many plus factors you would be able to witness. Because of this reason, this external financial reporting in a qualitative manner is going to be one of the dominant activities so far as any organization is concerned. That's what I have told you. From the practical perspective, if you just look into tomorrow when you pass CMA and become an accountant in an organization, you are going to do this. So this is going to be one of the practical element what is expected to be done by every professional. So long as you want to stick on with this accounting or the finance function, this is going to be one of your major activities. When somebody is switching over to audit section, that's a different ball game altogether. Ultimately, even when you being as an auditor, you are going to look into the quality of the financial reports. So ultimately, knowledge in financial report must be 100% in its total. There cannot be, in its entirety rather, I can say, there cannot be any kind of 15%, 20% weightage. In reality, you can give for this topic, but from the exam perspective, yes, 15% is the weightage given to this topic when compared to other topics available so far as part 1 of CMA program is concerned. Now, when we speak about this external reporting, we are supposed to understand what a financial statement is. Most of you would have heard about this term, financial statement. Safida, a corporate employee, I am sure. Anju Abraham has worked for many years. Safida is in the verge of entering into an employment. And I am sure even Arshul, as part of your collegiate education, this term would have been familiarized to yourself. So financial statements, I need not have to express or explain. This is something known to everybody. These financial statements are prepared invariably by the corporations at the end of every year in order to communicate the results. I was referring about communicating the figures of the business. This communication is happening through preparation of the financial statements. So at the end of the day, so far as this section A is concerned, there are so many elements we are going to understand. One of the prominent element what we are going to discuss first today is understanding the financial statements. What is contained in the financial statements? What are the various financial statements we are supposed to understand? What are contained in each of the financial statement? Why do we prepare? Who is going to use this? How do we communicate? See, ultimately, in accounting, whatever said and done, unless otherwise you are not able to communicate properly, actually whatever activities you have been carrying out for many years is of no use. So you would have done everything properly, you would have accounted everything properly, you would have made all the ledgers properly, ledger systems properly, trial balances properly, P&L properly, balance sheet properly. Everything is clear, but you are not communicating it, you are not able to communicate properly in a manner which is very well understood by the common people. See, understand, common people do not have any kind of accounting or finance knowledge. You are all accountants, learning CMA right now. You might be having some kind of flair or knowledge towards this finance or accounting terms. But who is aware in this world about this accounting or financial terms? You are communicating normally with a common man. When you look into the whole world's population, rather I can say 98% and more, rather I can say, do not have any knowledge related to accounting or finance. And less than 2% of the total population of the world is handling this finance or accounting of many organizations. See, now this 2% segment is going to communicate to this 98% segment. How effectively we are going to communicate, that is what we are going to learn here. See, what is so great in preparing a balance sheet and P&L? Everybody will be asking this question. What is so great about it? We can just type it in the form of a statement and publish. But understand, if I communicate in a language which is being spoken only in Amazon, South African area, is it possible for you to understand whatever I communicate? It's very difficult. So there must be a commonality in the communication, whatever given by the organization. So these organization statements must be communicating a real sense which is very well understood by the common people, common man. So we are supposed to understand how to communicate the results financially or the financial results of the enterprise comfortably, in a simple manner, crispier and clearer manner, which makes a greater sense for a common man who do not have any sense regarding accounting. This is our task. So that's the reason why we prepare the financial statements. Hope this is clear. And now, who are going to use this financial information? Users of financial information. When we say we are going to communicate, to whom do we have to communicate? They must be using the information what we provide. They are referred as the users of financial information. Those users are very important. That's a category or the community with whom we are responsible for. I am telling you openly, 100%, none of these people will be having any kind of finance knowledge. Majority, I can tell you. At least 99% of the people to whom we communicate all the results of the business do not have any kind of accounting or finance sense. Probably, rarely, some 1 or 2% of the total people might be having some knowledge about the finance stream. Leaving apart, our communication has to be very, very clear. That's why understanding the users before communicating is very important. Who are the people requiring this kind of financial information regarding your enterprise? One is the segment which is constantly making a lot of investment decisions. They have a lot of allocable surplus. They have enough money. They can invest anywhere. Probably they would like to invest in your company as well, provided they find a sense in making their investments productivity into your organization. They must be convinced regarding the fact that they can invest this money into your enterprise. So this should be happening. So this purely depends upon what kind of an information regarding your company you are providing for. That's one segment. Second is extending or withholding the credit. See, let me tell you, withholding credit means what? Or extending credit means what? I will tell you. There are so many people, suppliers or financiers, who are going to give you funds, who are going to supply you material by giving you credit. So rather, you depend upon them for your business in many situations. Take the case of any financiers. These financiers are going to finance you. Suppliers are going to supply you with material. So many other vendors would be providing you a lot of services whereby they offer you credits. So long as these people are giving you credit, you owe money to them. They have every right to understand what is going on in your business. So they require your financial information. See, second thing, the people, in order to assess the strength and weakness of an organization by anybody who are considered to be an outsider, they require a lot of information regarding your company, especially financial information. So that segment of people would be very keen regarding the financial information provided by you. Then somebody would be interested to invest into your business by looking into the manager's performance. Who is a manager here? The manager, whatever we mean here, are nobody other than the board of directors of the company. This board of directors' performance are keen for the sustainability of the business. So this would be looked into critically by the people. A financial information would be providing such a great information to others. They would be able to comfortably understand what kind of managers you have, how are they performing. See, no doubt when the organization, that is definitely due to the strategic decisions which would have been taken by the management. So with the thriving informations or thriving positive figures, whatever you provide, no doubt somebody would be able to understand how effectively these organizations are going to be managed. And finally, determining whether or not the company is complying with the regulatory requirements. See, finally, let me tell you, whatever you are doing, you would have done a lot of things. Your business is taking off in an exceptionally very good manner. So long as you are not complying with the laws, regulations of the country where you are playing around, ultimately your business sustainability is under a big question mark. You may not be able to go on comfortably. Your going concern concept itself is going to be affected because of this. Why? Because any point of time, so long as you are not complying with the regulations or the laws of the country, the government has the right to apply a ban on such kind of a business in reality. So you would never be able to take off in a manner which is meant by you. So government is very much concerned regarding this financial information provided by your corporation, or regulatory bodies are concerned, statutory bodies are concerned. Hope it is clear. Any questions you have in between, please kindly interrupt. You can ask me. Now, you can split these users into two: direct, indirect, internal and external users. See, who are the direct users of the financial information provided by any organization? Any investors who would like to invest their money into your organization. Any existing investor, potential investor, or those who can invest in future are referred to be potential investors. Your own employees, because they are worried regarding their sustainability, their employment, their increments. They are bothered about the financial results of the enterprise. Management, of course, suppliers, creditors. All these segments of the people can be said to be direct users. There are so many indirect users so far as the informations are concerned. Financial analysts, business and investment advisors, stock markets, various regulatory bodies. They are not going to directly interact with the company or invest any amount into this company at any manner. But they can advise others. They are influential. Others might go and ask them, what should we do with our funds? These people can guide them. Go and invest in this company. So, unless otherwise, great information regarding your financial stability are available With these people, it is very difficult for them to guide others. So these segment of people are referred to be the indirect users. So we have direct, indirect users. We have internal and external users. I need not have to explain this internal and external. Why? Because internal, you yourself know. Within the organization, whoever are said to use the financial information can be said to be internal users. Any external can be your own competitor, your own suppliers, key raw material suppliers, government or anybody rather. They are all said to be external in nature. Financiers, bankers, they are all externals. Now, we understood what is the requirement of a financial statement so far. What are we going to do with this? Now we are going to understand the types of the financial statements. See, the American generally accepted accounting principles, that is GAAP, US GAAP. As per the US GAAP, we are going to learn all the financial reporting as per the US GAAP. They have balance sheet. This is considered to be the statement of financial position. Either way, both are same. We have income statement and statement of comprehensive income. This is one. This is not two. Rather, probably I would have written here as point number 2 and point number 3. This 2 and 3 are actually released together. It is not two different statements. It is one statement. That's all. This statement is generally referred as statement of comprehensive income. This statement of comprehensive income in reality has got two parts, P&L and other comprehensive income part. So there is nothing called independently income statement. Income statement is in reality referred as statement of comprehensive income. Though I have typed it as income statement and statement of comprehensive income, never consider it as two different statements. It is one statement as such. Are you clear? So we have statement of financial position, statement of comprehensive income. In India, we refer it as profit and loss statement. Once upon a time, we used to refer it as P&L account. Now we are referring here it as P&L statement. Generally, across the whole globe, this is referred as a comprehensive income statement. Why this? What is the concept of this comprehensive income? Why we refer it as comprehensive? Everything I will be explaining it later. Then statement number 3 will be, in a sense, in my sense, it is going to be third statement, which is called statement of cash flows. I need not have to explain, but anyway, we will be understanding what cash flows contain. And 4 will be something different, which is called changes in stockholders' equity. Not stakeholders' equity, stockholders' equity. Stockholder in the sense, probably the equity shareholder in our sense, and in American sense, they are referred as common stockholders, as well as the preferred stockholders. They will be looking into how their positions are changing from one year to other year. So exclusive statement would be prepared for them. These are the 4 important, rather, though I have written as 5, I refer it as 4. Balance sheet, statement of comprehensive income, which is otherwise even referred as income statement, statement of cash flows, and changes in stockholders' equity. These statements we are going to understand one by one, as what each statement contains and what are the various elements we need to look into critically. If you have any questions, we can ask me right now. So far. Otherwise, confirm that you are clear so that I can proceed further. Hope I am not too fast. Hello. Good. Fine. Anyway, regarding this difference between IFRS, 4th point, I am going to explain. My explanations are not over. I am even yet to explain each and every aspect. Statement of cash flow means which is going to communicate the cash movements, whatever happening during a specific year. This is a separate statement. We are going to understand this statement in length and breadth. So kindly give me some time. I would be explaining it in depth. Don't worry about it. This is simply an advanced piece of information that I am sharing right now with you all. That's all. Now, those slide talks about the difference between IFRS and US GAAP. I don't think this is the right time where it's appropriate to discuss this difference between US GAAP and IFRS, because We have not even understood what is US GAAP. Then where is the question of understanding, comparing it with the IFRS? Very difficult. So I am parking this information. Let us move on further, understand the financial statements thoroughly and the accounting thoroughly. Then finally we will come and discuss about the difference existing between the US GAAP as well as IFRS. So what is a balance sheet? Statement of financial position. See, the term itself is communicating the sense of a balance sheet. Financial position. Now, I am asking you a question. Anshul, what is your financial position? What do you say? You will say that your money is sponsored by your parents. Right now, you don't have any asset. You are itself an inventory so far as your parents are concerned. You do not have any kind of separate stand. This is the information you can give me right now. But if I ask Anju Abraham, she would be able to tell me that she has so much of assets, so much of liabilities, because she has an employment. What she had earned out of the employment, what are the facilities available at their residence, what are the liabilities she would have created during the last 10 or 11 years. She would be able to tell me a lot of things about it. So her financial position somebody can comment upon, because she has an earning capacity. Somebody who has an earning capacity only will be able to comment upon the financial position. An organization earns a lot. It earns revenue. It might be earning profit, but it is earning revenue. It has a lot of money. It has applied a lot of money, rather, I can say. A lot of people would have brought in money. So, there is a sense to understand the financial stability position of any organization. That is what exactly being communicated through the term balance sheet. What comes under this balance sheet? See, normally, you all know, we have. If I ask you, any normal BCom graduate or who are doing their BCom right now or BBA right now in any college, they would be immediately giving an answer. It's liabilities and assets. Basically speaking, the liabilities and assets are old conventions. Right now, we have assets still. The liabilities, assets, whatever we have been talking about has been split into two. One is liability in literal sense. Second is equity. That is money which is owned and brought in by the owners of the business are differentiated from money brought in by outsiders. Earlier, we never used to give this bifurcation. Everything used to be treated as a liability. Reason I will tell you. Once upon a time, the balance sheet used to be prepared by many business corporations by applying the entity concept in accounting. Business entity concept. Business entity concept communicates the fact that business entity is different totally from everybody else. Whether they are related directly or indirectly, they are all totally different from the business entity. Whether it is a common stock holder, preference shareholder, banker, financier, debenture holder, bond holder, or anybody, everybody are contributing money. As a business entity, artificial personality who comes under the creativity of the law, that specific entity is getting money from all the segments of the people. This entity is not bothered whether somebody is a owner or others. So far as the entity is concerned, every amount it receives is going to be ultimately a liability for this. You might say that you are the owner, but they don't recognize it. So far as the entity is concerned, they have to give you money. That is what exactly the business entity concept once upon a time used to express. So by applying the business entity concept, when you prepare the balance sheet, that balance sheet will be having only two portions. That is liabilities and assets. So But now, the current scenario, international scenario, requires you to prepare the balance sheet not from the perspective of the entity, but we are going to prepare the balance sheet from the perspective of the owners of the company. I will tell you the reason. Three of you are doing the business: Anju, Zafida, and I don't know the other personalities, and Arshul. Okay, three of you are doing the business. You are the owners. Correct? You have brought in money. You have taken loan. I am your accountant. I am preparing the balance sheet. I come out with the balance sheet saying that it's liabilities and assets. You do not know accounting and you asked me, what is this liability? I told you liability is the money whatever due to be given to others, outsiders. Finally, you looked into every element which comes under liability and you asked me a question. We have also brought in money where that you have mentioned. I said, see, your money comes first as capital. Then suddenly you asked me a question. Whose business is this? I said, it's your business. Then whose balance sheet is this? I said, it's your balance sheet. Then you asked me another question. Then whose money is this? I said, it's your money. Then fourth question you asked me, then how can our money be our liability? In this case, and as an accountant, our accounting system does not have any kind of answer. If you apply business entity concept, I can fill it only as liability. But basically, this is a question asked by the owner saying that how can our money be our own liability? This question probably is a surprise question, very difficult for somebody to answer. But we are supposed to answer this. So what we have done, the entity concept has been shelved off. We are not using the entity concept. Only for the sake of preparing the balance sheet, please understand, only for the sake of preparing the balance sheet, we are applying the concept of owner's feelings. So balance sheet is in reality prepared from the owner's perspective, individual perspective, human beings perspective. So when owners are bringing in money, I cannot go and tell them that this is your liability. They will not accept. That is their own money. So their money need to be identified separately. So what we have done, the term liability is reframed as equity and liability. So this portion of the balance sheet contains two portions: equity, money brought in by the owners; liabilities, money brought in by outsiders. That's why in the case of any international balance sheets as per IFRS or even your US GAAP or even our Ind AS, we are also doing the same thing. We do not refer the term liabilities here any longer. Even in India, we are using the term equity and liabilities. So also in America, we have the term liabilities and equity separately. So in a balance sheet, please understand, we have assets. Other portion will be equity and liability, which communicates what is the owner's fund, what is others fund. Hope this is clear. So kindly get back to me faster, okay? Hope this is clear. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, kindly communicate. You're all going to be accountants. Communication is very important. I have been teaching you communication so far. So please, you communicate faster to me. That's the only thing we can do right now. Moving on. What comes under the head balance sheet? We are going to discuss asset. Now, I will ask a question. You tell me what an asset is. What do you mean by the term asset? You can type it. You don't have to speak, but you can type. Hope you are able to hear me. So you tell me what an asset is. Then we will understand what a current asset is. Now I want an answer from your side, okay? Don't think too much. Communicate fast. Okay. I expected a better answer from Anju. Anyway, others, please. Arshul, Zaida. Kindly make it interactive, please. Kindly type whatever you know. I'm not going to cut off your head. Let it go wrong. Absolutely no issue. Don't hesitate. What do you mean by the term asset? Fine. Okay. You're all giving highly critical comments. Very good. Anyway, let me tell you. See, we do not want all these kind of explanations. We want things to be much more simpler. You are all able to see this word file, right? Okay. So I am going to right now comment upon current asset. Before that, I am going to comment upon what an asset is. Okay. Asset is something which in turn gives benefits to the business. Very simple. Now let me tell you, I'll ask you an example. Newspaper you all would have read regarding something which happened at the international level. That is ISIS chief killed. Correct? Hello? You tell me whether he is an asset or not. Excuse me. Exactly. He was an asset for IS. I am talking about your perspective. You are the business personality. I am talking about you. ISIS is only a minor percentage of the people. ISIS we don't consider. I am considering the entire world as the business house. So you tell me whether he is an asset or not. That's my question. An asset is something where you are going to spend money. And in turn, if that is not going to be beneficial for you all, you cannot consider that expenditure as an asset. That becomes a loss. So it's a loss. Now, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, what about himself? He is an asset mainly because he was not only beneficial to our country, but also he was actually giving advices to various countries, and various countries, including NASA, was depending upon his piece of advice. So that's a kind of, an element we are actually looking from the term asset in reality means. So when we speak about the term asset from a business perspective, perfectly that has to contribute towards results in the form of benefits. When an expenditure, whatever you are spending, the money spent by you, if that is not resulting into a corresponding benefit, you cannot term that expenditure to be an asset or that spending to be an asset. That is treated only as a loss. Whenever you spend money and that money intend to give you benefits at the end of the day, that benefit can be said to be an expenditure. Expenditure results into creation of an asset. I'll explain. So asset is something which is in turn gives benefits to the business at the end of the day. Now listen, these benefits can be in the short run, benefits can be in the long run. When the benefits are witnessed over a long span of time, then the asset is referred as non-current asset. When the benefits are witnessed during the short span of time, then such assets are referred as current asset. This is the logic. So such kind of assets are referred as current assets. When that is going to give you a benefit only in the short run, immediately, that is going to give you a benefit immediately in the current year. A benefit over a longer span of time from such kind of an asset. There are assets which are going to give you benefits not only in the current year but also in future. Those assets are referred to be non-current in nature because it can't be referred as a current one. Current one means immediate. Non-current means over a longer span of time. This is the concept of current asset. Now listen, if you ask a business personality, now if you ask an accountant, accountant will say, this is what is current asset. If you ask a business personality, what is his view about current asset? He won't say about current assets or non-current assets. When you ask him, what do you mean by asset? A business personality will say, asset is their investment in reality. Asset means investment. I have brought in a lot of money. Whatever money which I felt for investment purposes, I have brought the money in the form of a loan from outsiders. Entire amount I have judiciously and productively invested in the form of assets. So assets are my investments. These investments will be fetching me revenue and the corresponding profit. So ultimately, asset is something which will produce a benefit, a revenue, or the profit, no doubt on that. But a business personality will be referring asset as their investment because I have invested my money into various assets. This investment can be of two types: non-current investment, current investment. Non-current investments are referred to be non-current assets. Current investments are referred to be current assets. Very simple. So current asset is an investment. From whose perspective? From the perspective of a business personality who is not an accountant. From the accountant's perspective, current assets are those which are going to give benefits during the current year itself within a very short span of time. That only can be referred to be a current asset. Now, I will ask you a question. What comes under current assets? You look into current assets. I have given you the explanation regarding the current asset, the term current asset. Now you just look into what comes under current assets. Current assets includes cash and equivalents, short-term marketable securities, trade and other receivables, inventories. Leave apart prepaid expenses. You may not be able to find these prepaid expenses or other current assets in all organizations. Practically for all business decision-making purposes, we don't consider the term prepaid expenses because the reason I will tell you later right now. But at present, you understand, we are right now for the sake of understanding this current asset, we are not going to consider the term prepaid expenses. So current asset include cash and cash equivalents, marketable securities, receivables, inventories. Okay. Now, I'll go back and type this in the Word file. contains inventories, receivables, marketable securities, cash and cash equivalents. Now, listen to me. I was referring that these current assets are nothing but the investments made by owners of the business. So this inventory, receivable, marketable security, cash and cash equivalents are nothing but the investments done by the owners. Now listen, I will ask you another question. What do you mean by current liabilities? We are going to understand the term current liability along with current assets. That makes more sense. You tell me what a current liability is. In your perspective, what a current liability is? Hello, faster, quicker, please. Immediate liabilities. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by immediate liabilities? I understood. It's immediate liabilities. What do you mean by the term liability? That is, I can say rather payables. These are the amount to be paid in the short span of time, payables. Do you agree with me? Fine. Now you tell me, how come this payable arise in a business? Arshul need to pay me 10 lakh rupees. Why you have to pay me 10 lakh rupees? What is the reason? Hello? See, why should you have to pay money to somebody? There must be a reason, right? What is the reason? Yeah, that is true. That's your liability. Why? How come this liability occurred for you? What is the reason for this liability? Tomorrow morning, suddenly I can't come to you and tell me. Exactly, he might have borrowed something from you. Perfectly right. So Arshul has borrowed or availed a service from me or would have borrowed something from me. Because of this reason, Arshul owes me money. Yes or no? Now, when you give, say for example, when you are the personality giving me money, you are giving me money. What is going to happen? Assume that Arshul pays me 10 lakh rupees. What is going to happen? When you pay me money, liability is zero. Your liability stands cancelled. Am I right? Yes, perfect. Now listen, what is going to happen here? Your bank balance will come down. Your cash and cash equivalents, your current asset balance will come down immediately. Whenever you make the payment, your cash and cash equivalents will come down. It will be reduced. Because you are giving me money by taking money from this segment. So what is going to happen? When the payables are met, that is when you make the payment, your current asset balance will be getting reduced. Yes or no? Any payment, any payable, whether it is 1 rupee or 1 lakh rupees, 1 crore or 100 million, whatever it may be, whenever you make the payment, that is meant to be taken out of your current assets and it has to be given. That is there in your bank account balance. Either it will be in the form of cash or in the form of any other item in the current assets. It can be inventory. When Arshul has supplied me I have supplied you inventory. Inventory will be with Arshul. Or if Arshul had already sold the inventory, that will be with receivable. Or he had collected the money, that will be in the form of cash. Either way, the money, whatever due to me, okay, is included in the current assets in one form or other form. That's the reality. So current liabilities are very well connected to current assets. So when we say payable, this is an amount to be given to an outsider. That outsiders, something is present in the current assets of ours. We cannot say that entire current asset element belong to us. Some current assets belong to somebody else, third party, to whom we are supposed to pay the money. Tell me, sir, no. So in this case, this current asset not only contains your own investment, but also contain others' investment as well. See, please understand. So long as you are not settling my money, I will consider that I have invested my money in your business. It's a fact too. See, say for example, or you work in a company. The company owes you 50,000 rupees per month. Company has not given you salary for first month, second month, third month. Company will be giving you the salary only from the beginning of the fourth month or end of the fourth month onwards. This is the practice. You can say that you have invested your first month salary, second month salary, third month salary in the company itself. That company has to give you this money back. So this your money is with the company. Where it will be in the company? It will be in the current asset of the company. Either it will be in the form of a bank balance or a cash balance or some other current assets. So these current liability items are, please understand, it is included in the current assets in one form or other form. So long as these payables are not met, literally you have not made the payments, you cannot say that the entire current assets belong to me. Whatever payables or the current liabilities you have recognized in the balance sheet, that much of amount is included in the current assets. Suppose, say for example, I will give an example. This inventory is 100 million. Receivable is 80 million. Marketable security is another 20 million. Cash and cash equivalents we have another 150 million. Now we have payables to the tune of 220. Now listen. $120. This 120 is an amount to be given. Where this 120 will be? Of course, this 120 is either in the form of inventory or in the form of receivables or in the form of marketable security, can't be, or in the form of your cash or cash equivalents. Somebody had given you some kind of material, somebody had rendered some services, you owe them money. That money is with you. If they have supplied you material and those materials are not consumed in the business, that will be appearing in the form of inventory here. Or if you had sold the inventory, not collected the money, that is going to appear in the form of a receivable. Or if you had collected the money, that will be either be in the form of cash and cash equivalents or in the form of marketable security, short-term investments. So ultimately understand, this 120 million is included in the current assets. Now I will ask you a question. When you make the payment of this 120, what is going to happen? 120 will be removed because you are settling your liability. With what you are going to settle your liability? You can say love letter with a red rose and say that I love you and settle the liability. It is not possible. You are going to pay off your money. This money is very well part of your current asset. The moment you pay this 120, understand, this 120 will be reduced, no doubt, and this becomes 0. Why? Because you are paying it out of your own current assets. And the balance current asset is only going to be 30. Very simple. Current asset will reduce. Because this 120 is included in your current assets. Now my question is, the total current asset here is 100 plus 80 plus 20, 200 plus 150, 350. No owner can say the entire 350 is my investment. 350 contains 120 invested by outsiders. So when you are asking a question to the owner, how much you have invested? Owners will say, total current asset is 350. That others invested amount is 150. When you reduce, 230 will be my investment. So now I'll put this in a different fashion. 350 is current asset. 120 is current liability. Current asset minus current liability will be working capital. 230 is referred to be working capital. Now you tell me what is this working capital? Very simple. Everybody will immediately tell me working capital means amount which are required for day-to-day business operation. Ideally might be right from a common normal point of view. From a professional accountant's perspective, working capital has got a greater sense. From a business perspective, working capital has got a greater sense. It means it is the net amount invested by the owners in the form of current asset. Why net amount? Their current assets right now have not been invested by the owners. Though current assets represents 350 crores, 120 crores done by others. Others' money, I can't say that I have invested. So, I need to pay off this money. So, naturally, current asset will come down. In this case, my current asset, the amount whatever I have invested into current asset is only 230. That is said to be working capital. So, working capital is the net amount invested by the owners in the form of current asset. Is this clear? Now, you have understood what is current asset? What are contained in the current assets? What is a current liability? What is the relationship current liabilities are having with current assets? What is the concept of working capital? Why we reduce current liability from current asset? You might say it's for calculating working capital. Now you tell me what is working capital? It is net current asset invested by the owners. This is the logic. Do you have any doubt here? You can ask me. Fantastic. Now, I'm sure you don't even have to go through this slide again. We are moving on to the next segment, which is called non-current asset. We are going to understand non-current. I was explaining about the non-current concept sometimes back because I was explaining about current asset concept. Current asset which are beneficial in the short run. Non-current assets are going to be beneficial for many years. Okay. Now, let us proceed. Non-current assets. Non-current asset. I have told you the explanation for non-current assets. It is a capital expenditure. Expenditures are of two, revenue and capital. Revenue expenditure are related to current assets. Capital expenditures are related to non-current assets because capital expenditures are meant to be spent by the corporation. Not able to see anything. What about others? Hello? Okay, kindly wait. Slide. Slide is clear, right? Word file. Now, I am asking you a question. You were able to see this earlier? When I was explaining about current liability, current asset, working capital, you were able to see the word file. Okay, then you would have told me, kindly wait, let me see what's happening. My God. Can you see this now? Any capital expenditure will be resulting into creating benefits for the business for a span of time. Now, this non-current assets differentiated in the form of tangible non-current assets, tangible non-current assets. We have even long-term investments, something called deferred assets. Maybe all those things. Look simply from the two perspectives, tangible and intangible non-current asset. Tangible means which are have physical existence and which can be measured physically are said to be tangible. Not having physical existence and cannot be measured physically are said to be intangible. In simple manner, what comes under tangible non-current asset? The thing called property and equipments are referred to be tangible non-current assets. These elements are can be measured, can be quantified physically, and these are all expected to give you benefits over a longer span of time. Now, kindly PowerPoint right now. Can you see the PPT which I am sharing? No, right? I don't know why it is. Back. Now, can you see this? Go through the term non-current asset. What comes under non-current asset? Kindly look. Health security, debt securities are referred to be long-term investments. Property property, plant and equipment, intangible non-current assets. Right of use assets under lease agreements. We will be learning it later under the head leasing. Deferred tax. Deferred tax we are going to learn later. There is a separate chapter meant to give communication regarding the income tax treatments. There you would be learning the deferred tax. So right now I am going to discuss only property, plant and equipment and the intangible long-term assets, intangible assets. You must understand what a is fixed assets in the normal sense. Any traditional student would be able to remember the same term with the heading fixed assets. Fixed assets are now referred as property, plant and equipment. I don't have to ask you what are the examples of property, plant and equipment. You would be able to tell me. It is land, building, furniture, equipments and leasehold improvements, any natural resources, minerals or timber, which are used in the respective businesses. Everything can be said to be a property, plant and equipment. We need to understand recognized in the books. Any property or equipment shall be recognized at cost plus any additional expenses incurred to the up to the putting such PPE into business use. What is the value at which any property, plant or equipment will be considered or accounted in the books? That is your purchase cost. You are buying a diesel generator, importing it. Any cost, whatever you pay to the supplier, basic cost, plus freight. Duties, if any, if you have to pay. Any site preparation charges you have to incur. Any installation expenses to install such a machinery. Test run expenses. Without doing all these things, you cannot make the asset run for the business. Start utilizing an asset for the business is said to be putting the business into business use. Okay, see, when you buy a car, immediately you won't be taking it on the roads. You would first register, pay the money, incur some additional expenses, bring the car to your home, keep it for 2-3 days. Then finally, when you arrange everything for your comfortable parking, only then you are going to take your vehicle immediately on the roads. Similarly, when a machinery is purchased, any other equipment is purchased by the business corporation, straight away they won't be able to use it. They would be putting it into use only after ensuring that it can give the right productivity, whatever meant to be reaped out of it, and whatever activities which they are supposed to carry out to bring such kind of a productivity element from such an asset need to be carried out by them. So there will be a lot of expenses which they need to incur in between. So that doesn't include the cost alone, but also additional expenses like freight. The asset cannot walk from the location to your warehouse, it is not possible. Freight charges have to be incurred. Insurance charges would have been incurred. Logistics insurance. Then site preparation cost, where you have to install, the site need to be prepared. Then you have to install, so installation expenses. After the installation, you have to test whether the machinery is working properly. Everything involves an expenditure. All these expenditures are going to be debited to the cost of the equipment. That's how it is going to be recognized. Is this clear? Now kindly listen. I will, in connection to the term property, plant or equipment, understand this is also an asset, non-current asset, which is going to fetch you benefit over a longer span of time. So this can be referred to be a capital expenditure too. Any capital expenditure are meant to give you productivity over longer span of time, benefit in the form of a revenue over longer span of time. So any property, plant or equipment is a capital expenditure for the business. So any PPE will be a capital expenditure, no doubt. Now, what do you mean by expenditure? Expenditure means which is something giving a benefit in turn to the business can be referred to be expenditure. Any expenditure is beneficial. What kind of a benefit? Revenue. Whether it is revenue expenditure or capital expenditure, both are meant to give you revenue. Revenue expenditure will be giving you revenue only in the current year short run. Capital expenditure, whereas, are going to expect to give you revenue over a longer span of time. Now, that is the speciality of expenditure. Now, one more speciality of expenditure is an expenditure need to be brought to profit and loss statement at some point of time. If not today, tomorrow. Definitely, any expenditure has to be brought to P&L. Anybody who has born is meant to die. In a similar manner, whenever an expenditure occurs, they are supposed to be brought to the P&L. P&L is the graveyard. We are all being taken to the graveyard at the end of the day. Expenditure also need to be brought to the graveyard. P&L is the graveyard. So finally, the destination is graveyard. Somebody will go to the graveyard today. Somebody will be getting into the graveyard later. That's the only difference. Similarly, revenue expenditure will go to the P&L this year. Capital expenditures are taken to the P&L at some point of time in future. Now, what is going to happen? When the capital expenditure will be taken to the P&L, suppose we are buying machinery. The value of the machinery is, say, 500 million. $500 million. This is meant to have an useful life of 10 years. What do you mean by the useful life? Ideally, the business would be able to reap benefits over the span of 10 years only from this asset. Nothing more, nothing less. This 10 years is the useful life. That means this machinery is going to give benefit over the span of next 10 years, starting from current year. Now, why are you taking the expenditure to P&L? What basis? The basis of taking an expenditure to P&L is nothing but matching principle. You are going to match any expenditure against the revenue. So all the expenditures are going to help in generating the revenue. Those expenditures which have helped the business to generate the revenue in the current year will be taken to the current year itself, so that the expenditure can be matched against the revenue. Some expenditure probably are going to give you benefits or revenue over another 10 years. So because of this reason, you cannot match the entire 500 million in the first year itself. You cannot match it against the current year's revenue. It has to be matched against 10 years revenue. So this 500 million can be taken to the P&L Not in the first year, but over the span of 10 years. The above expenditure as per the principle of matching will be brought to profit and loss statement over 10 years as this expense need to be matched against (10 years) revenue. This has helped you to generate 10 years revenue. So 500 million need to be matched against 10 years. So what are you going to do it? You will bring, say, 50 million. Year 2, you will be taking another 50. And this continues up to 10th year. So, entire 500 million would have been transferred after 10 years. Hope this is you are able to understand the logic. This process of transferring the a portion of the 500 million to the P&L is said to be depreciation. This is the concept of depreciation in finance. What is the depreciation? Everybody will say depreciation means reduction in the value of assets due to wear and tear, obsolescence, passage of time. Passage of time, obsolescence will not be resulting into depreciation. Obsolescence and passage of time will be resulting only into reduction in the value, which is otherwise referred as diminution of value. That is not depreciation. Wear and tear is a term which is used by the engineers. Due to utility, the value comes down. That value can be said to be depreciation, yes. But that's an engineering concept. An accountant's concept of depreciation means you are spending money by the asset. How do you bring it to P&L? You are worried only about it. You are not worried about the technical element of the business. When you are spending 500 million, right now you are taking it to the balance sheet. When will you be able to bring it to the P&L? Because you have to show the result. The correct profitability need to be measured. So you will be considering whether the machinery is going to give you benefit now or over a span of time. Now, having understood the fact that this machinery will be giving you benefits over 10 years, you would have thought it is not wise on your part to take it in the first year itself. So temporarily you thought of parking it in the balance sheet. From the balance sheet, portion by portion, you are going to transfer it to the P&L against every year's revenue. This is as per the principle of matching. This concept is very clearly said to be the concept of depreciation. This is the accountant's view of depreciation. So, I'll write this here. Depreciation. Process of recognizing a portion of total value of a property, plant and equipment based upon its useful life and the corresponding benefits in the profit and loss statement. Every to match against respective year's revenue. As per the principle of matching. Kindly look into this process of recognizing a portion of the total value. Total value is 500 million. You are recognizing only a portion. There is only 50 million every year. That's what is meant to be process of recognizing a portion of the total value of a property, plant or equipment. On what basis? On the basis of its useful life. Here it is 10 years. And the corresponding benefits, because during the span of this 10 years, this asset is meant to give you benefits, revenue. Where are you going to recognize? This 50 will be transferred to P&L. So it is recognized in the P&L statement. When? Every year. Why? Because you have to match against the respective year's revenue. 50 would have contributed towards revenue for the current year. Another 50 will be contributing towards revenue for the next year. Similarly, every 50 is contributing towards revenue for the next 10 years. So this 50 should be matching against every year's revenue. This is as per the principle of matching. This is said to be the concept of depreciation. Are you clear? Any doubt you can ask me, please. Because for CMA, this is you cannot refer it as wear and tear. Wear and tear, probably an engineer would be able to refer, not a CMA. You are a professional graduate. You can refer each and every financial term only in a manner which is meant to be communicated. So depreciation cannot be communicated in any other sense. You are worried about recognizing 500 million. How do you take it? This is the way you can take it. So that becomes depreciation. So ask me if you have got any clarity required further, I can explain. Or should tomorrow you must go and correct in your college. Somebody says depreciation is this. No. We are all going to be finance people. We would be referring depreciation only in this manner. This makes a better sense. You go through this PPT. You are able to see the PPT now. I request you to kindly go through this PPT, please. This is what I have been explaining so far. Once you finish reading this, kindly let me know so that I can move on further. Everybody kindly confirm. Yes, Arshil, I am moving on. I have told you about intangible non-current assets. It's very easy to understand this. Because you have understood the tangible non-current assets, it is easy to understand even intangible non-current assets, because though there is a wide difference in terms of its existence, okay, somebody would be able to find between this tangibility and the intangibility. There is a great common factor which can be witnessed. that both tangible as well as intangible non-current assets are said to be capital expenditures. Because these expenditures are supposed to bring in benefits over a longer span of time. So as the way we were discussing about the property, plant and equipment, intangible non-current assets, even the intangible non-current assets are meant to give you benefits over longer span of time. Now, whether it is tangible or intangible, when it is meant to give you benefits over a longer span of time, and when you know pretty well that both are expenditures, even it has to be brought to P&L. As the way you have done it in the case of a property, plant and equipment, tangible non-current assets, you applied the concept of depreciation and recognized all the expenditure in the P&L. Just now we have seen entire 500 million which you have spent for acquiring a machinery, which is part of the PPE, property, plant and equipment. Entire 500 million is amount spent by the corporation, it's an expenditure. This 500 million need to be brought to the P&L. But have you brought to the P&L in the year 1? No. You consider the useful life? Yes. Accordingly, over the useful life span, you have transferred the entire 500 million by applying the concept of depreciation. Same thing is applicable even in the case of an intangible non-current assets without any change. Because both are capital expenditures meant to give you long-term benefits. You spend money even to acquire a copyright, patent, goodwill, trademark, license fee, technological know-how or anything. Barring goodwill, every other intangible non-current assets need to be brought to P&L over the span of its useful life. That means copyrights are having useful life, patent, trademarks, license fee, technological know-how, developmental expenses capitalized. Everything will be having useful life one way or other way, not goodwill. So other than goodwill, every other intangible non-current assets will be brought to P&L based upon its useful life. Because intangible assets do not have physical existence, you cannot use the term depreciation. Depreciation is an exclusive right given to the tangibility factors. Similarly, the same process will be carried out portion by portion. We are going to bring the total expenditures incurred related to an intangible non-current asset based upon its useful life and its utility, its benefits in the P&L every year to match against the corresponding year's revenue based upon the principle of matching. This process is said to be amortization. Understand? We have learned the depreciation portion. Same thing is applicable. But instead of depreciation, we are going to refer the term as amortization because amortization is the term referred to intangibility assets. Depreciation is applicable to tangible assets. Two different terms. Process same. But this process can be applied to copyright, patent, trademarks, license fee, technological know-how, developmental expenses, but not goodwill. Because you can actually anticipate or perfectly judge or determine the useful life for copyright, patent, trademarks, license fee, technical know-how, developmental expenses. Though you cannot in fact perfectly determine the developmental expenses, companies will be taking a policy. Such kind of useful life or a useful life policy cannot be applied to the term goodwill. So other than goodwill, every other intangible non-current asset can be amortized and brought to the P&L. Goodwill will be tested for impairment. What is an impairment? We will learn later because we are going to learn the concept of tangible and intangible non-current assets independently. At that time, we would be learning the accounting for the tangible non-current assets. Independently, we are going to learn the accounting for the intangible non-current assets as well. So at that time, we will be learning the term impairment. At the time when we learn the impairment, we will be able to understand how to treat the goodwill. Right now, please understand, goodwill is not going to be taken to the P&L. Only other items will be taken to the P&L. Hope this is clear. Any doubt you can ask me right now, please. Any doubt regarding the topics, whatever we have covered so far can be asked right now. Absolute silence. Kindly communicate back, please. Arshul. Fine. We are moving on to the next term. Restricted cash. We have seen the term cash and cash equivalents as part of current assets. What is a cash? I don't have to explain. But there's a new item which springs that is called restricted cash. See, you have a bank balance. You have a bank balance of say around 100 million. This 100 million cash is meant to be spent. You can make payments. You can incur the expenses and make payment out of it. So you can do a lot of things. But the company has applied a restriction on the existing cash balance, saying that out of this 100 million, 50 million can be used only for certain specific purposes, cannot be utilized for all purposes. To meet certain exigencies, emergency situations for the company in future, I need to set aside the cash. This is being done even by your own parents, or you yourself will be doing it. You earn money, you set aside some cash in the form of a deposit. Come what may, you won't touch. That might be in the best interest of protecting your own rainy days. You don't know what is going to happen in future. That money will never be spent for your monthly day-to-day activities. Similarly, an organization will also be restricting the usage of the cash. There are so many uses, so many emergencies, so many important equipment purchases, machinery purchases, many other capital investments or critical loan repayments. If you simply spend the entire 100 million, where the company is going to land up? Company will never be able to meet up with all these expenditures. It will be difficult. So you have to have this restricted cash. Sometimes there will be petty cash given to various branches. Salary need to be given, payroll funds. At the time of making payment to the employee, you cannot even commit this payment to anybody else because employees are very important. Without their contribution, it is very, very difficult for an organization to thrive and move up. So salaries, payments are critical. Similarly, every accountant will be able to identify what are the critical payments for the organization. There are methods for identifying these critical payments. Anyway, that right now we are not going to touch. This will be discussed as part of your budgeting. But right now, understand, all these criticalities are to be met by the enterprise. So some restrictions on the disbursement of cash would be applied by the corporation. So you can kindly read the PPT immediately. Confirm that you are clear. Hello. Have you completed reading this? Fine. I don't have to explain because I have explained enough regarding this current liabilities. So kindly go through this, please. You have to read the term working capital as the way you understand the current assets as well as the current liability, which I have explained sometimes back. This goes together always. Liabilities, that is, which is nothing but the money which is brought in by outsiders, are split into two: current and non-current. Current liabilities we have seen. Non-current liabilities, current liabilities are meant to be met within very short span of time. Like non-current assets, these kind of liabilities, we need not have to pay it immediately, but we have to pay it over a longer span of time. That kind of liabilities are referred to be non-current liabilities. Kindly read this. Kindly confirm once you are through with this slide. Finally, we are going to understand equity means the money brought in by the owners, shareholders. This comprises of capital stock, that is the common stock, ordinary stock. We refer here in India as equity share. There is any paid up capital. We refer it as reserves and surplus. Instead, we are using the term retained earnings. Treasury stock means shares which are bought back from the market. These elements are nothing but the money which are brought in by the owners, so it is referred as an equity. I was referring about the term equity and the liabilities at the beginning, even before I commenced discussing the contents of the balance sheet. So now I give you everything in the form of a laddu. So you can play. Tomorrow what I will do, I will be giving you the format of the balance sheet as to show you how this is being presented, and will be discussing further regarding the P&L and the other elements. Now, regarding the current class, hope everybody would have understood. Any doubt you have, you kindly listen to the recordings which we send from here right now. Tomorrow you have the liberty to look into this, listen once again. Come back to me for any further clarification so that you can get the clarifications and further we can move on to the next topics. So, with your permission, I am wrapping up the session for the day. I will catch you up tomorrow. Good night.